In a grand, echoing courtroom filled with military officials and press, a judge slams his gavel and fixes his gaze on the silent royal guard standing before him. His crimson uniform and polished boots gleam under the overhead lights, but all eyes are on the small bronze medal pinned to his chest, the Victoria Cross. The judge, known for his unforgiving stance on military discipline, orders the guard to remove it, accusing him of tarnishing the honor it represents. "You've brought disgrace to the Queen's regiment," he declares sharply, referring to a recent scandal involving an unsanctioned operation abroad. The room falls into stunned silence as the guard remains motionless, his expression unreadable. Whispers ripple through the gallery. Some see a disgraced hero, others suspect something deeper. To many, stripping a soldier of such a revered award is unthinkable, but the judge appears unmoved. The guard, however, neither protests nor pleads. He doesn't even flinch. His silence is haunting. It's not defiance, it's something else. Something colder. Something earned through pain. The court awaits his response, but none comes. The weight of the moment is heavy, and no one yet knows that the man they are trying to humiliate is someone whose past could shake the very foundation of that courtroom. The royal guard, standing upright and motionless, never breaks form. His silence unnerves even the most hardened military men in the room. Judges are used to defiance or remorse, but this silence carries neither. It's the silence of a man who's lived in shadows, carried burdens beyond comprehension, and accepted judgment before. The courtroom watches, waiting for a reaction. There is none. His lips remain closed, his gaze steady, almost as if this moment is beneath him. Not out of arrogance, but experience. Some officers exchange glances, whispering about his file. Clean, decorated, but strangely incomplete. A few note that he never gave interviews, avoided ceremonies, and rarely spoke unless required. There's an unsettling nobility in his quietness. It's as though the man standing there isn't just a soldier, but something far more complex. Someone who's seen things the public will never know. This is no ordinary guard. He doesn't carry pride in medals, but in something invisible, perhaps sacred. His refusal to defend himself is not resignation, it's control. A silence not of guilt, but of command. What the judge interprets as insolence, others are beginning to recognize as mystery. A story is buried in this man's silence, waiting to rise. Whispers of the incident begin circulating, tugging at the edges of an official narrative too clean to trust. Months earlier, in a classified region overseas, a joint operation between British intelligence and local forces went terribly wrong. The Royal Guard, on special detachment at the time, reportedly disobeyed a direct order to evacuate during a critical phase of the mission. What followed was never publicly released. Unconfirmed reports claimed a deadly bioagent was involved, and hundreds of civilians were in the path of an impending catastrophe. Commanders later submitted a report citing compromised protocol and unauthorized intervention. The blame was quietly pushed toward one man, the Royal Guard. The military called it insubordination. He called it nothing. He never offered a statement. What few know is that the guard had advanced knowledge, intuition, or perhaps field intel that wasn't in the system. Something that told him leaving would cost innocent lives. He stayed alone in a zone about to be sealed off. What happened during those missing hours remains a mystery. But the aftermath was clear. The region was stabilized, the agent neutralized, and the death toll minimal. Still, the brass demanded a scapegoat. And he, true to form, said nothing, until now as the courtroom spectacle unfolds. A curious military historian named Elliot, watching remotely, begins to dig deeper. Something doesn't sit right. The Royal Guard's profile is oddly sparse for someone in such a prestigious position. Records before a certain year simply stop. No training academy notes, no deployment logs, no family. Only one thing stands out. A former codename, now redacted, Ghost 4. Elliot, using old clearance access from his time consulting with mod archives, begins piecing together scattered data points, anomalies in old mission reports, and names that were once whispered only in dark, quiet rooms. Then it clicks. Ghost 4 wasn't a code name for a trainee or a regular field officer. It was one of the SAS most elite deep-cover operatives, known for vanishing into hostile zones and reappearing only when the impossible had been done. Many believed he had died years ago in a failed op. But instead, he had been buried, his identity erased, reassigned, and repurposed as a royal guard. Not as punishment, but as protection. A living legend, hidden in plain sight. The very medal they were asking him to remove was earned not once, but many times over, each time in missions the world was never meant to hear about. The evidence collected is overwhelming. The so-called disobedience was, in fact, a calculated sacrifice. During the mission in question, he stayed behind to neutralize the bioagent manually, knowing full well it could cost him his life. Satellite footage later revealed him emerging from the zone alone, covered in debris and burns, carrying a child he had rescued along the way. He didn't file a report. He didn't seek credit. He simply returned to his post, silent as ever. Analysts in private circles whispered about the hero who had single-handedly prevented a cross-continental outbreak. But officially, he was never mentioned. The military couldn't afford to publicize the operation. The political cost was too high, and so the hero remained hidden. Those in power saw him as a tool, a shadow who obeyed quietly. But his refusal to speak was not submission, it was principle. He had already decided long ago. The mission was never about medals or recognition. It was about doing what others wouldn't. In his silence was a deep, unshakable moral code. A sense of duty not to titles or uniforms, but to life itself. And now, even as the world tries to strip him of his honor, he holds firm. Knowing the truth, back in the courtroom, the judge is handed a secure envelope by a ministry official, his brows furrowing as he tears it open. The contents inside change everything. He reads classified documents, witness testimonies, debriefs, all stamped with eyes only. The transformation on his face is slow but unmistakable. His hand trembles slightly as he closes the file. For the first time during the trial, his voice wavers. "This changes things," he murmurs. The room, already tense, now hums with electricity. Journalists freeze mid-sentence. Soldiers sit upright. The judge looks at the royal guard, truly looks, and for the first time, sees not a symbol of disobedience but a man who carried a burden no court could comprehend. His authority collides with revelation. The courtroom, once a place of shame for the guard, begins to feel like a confessional, where the judge himself must reckon with the cost of power and pride. The silence that once irritated him now commands his respect. As he closes the file, the judge rises from his seat, struggling to maintain composure. His verdict, long rehearsed in arrogance, is now crushed by the weight of truth. A man he sought to strip now stands taller than the entire room. The judge clears his throat, voice subdued. "This man," he begins, "is not simply a royal guard. He is a decorated SAS legend, whose service has saved lives across continents, most of which will never be officially recorded." Gasps fill the courtroom. The press erupts in hushed chaos. Officers rise to their feet in disbelief. Some begin to cry. The royal guard remains perfectly still, eyes forward, never gloating. He did not ask for this moment. It was forced upon him. But the truth, like a lion long caged, has finally broken free. The judge continues, now visibly moved, detailing the mission, the decision to keep the guard's identity secret for national security, and how the medal he wears was never truly in question. "It is we," the judge admits, "who failed to recognize the weight of the silence he bore." The guard finally looks up, and in that glance, the entire courtroom sees what they had missed. Quiet heroism, forged in fire. The press, for once, put their pens down, not out of duty but reverence. For the first time, the man behind the uniform is no longer invisible. The myth is now flesh, and his silence roars. The judge steps down from his bench, something unheard of in military courts. Slowly, deliberately, he approaches the royal guard. With trembling hands, he adjusts the Victoria Cross pinned to the guard's chest, not removing it, but straightening it, as if trying to restore dignity with the care of a craftsman. Then, with a nod to the gallery, the judge does something that silences the entire room. He salutes. A long, respectful salute. Other officers follow. One by one, soldiers rise to their feet, offering the same. The guard finally breaks his posture and returns the salute, but just barely. Then, for the first and only time, he speaks, "I serve quietly, so others may live." Just 8 words, but they land like thunder. The courtroom, now flooded with respect and awe, understands that this was never a trial. It was a reckoning. A reckoning with how little the world knows about its quietest heroes. As the press capture the moment, the camera flashes bounce off his medal, but it's not the medal that gleams brightest. It's the man, standing not as a victim, but as a symbol of what true honor really means.